I think it's an excellent chart. Alex done exceedingly well last 6 7 months. Very very fruitful for the stock from being a stock which was at just 40 rupees or 35 rupees. End of 2020 to being a stock which is at 140 plus. I think it's been phenomenal. Looks good, attractive from current levels. So I think for anyone who's looking to trade, then I think at 140 144 where the stock is trading, it could be a good momentum buy for a target of 164, and stop loss could be kept at 134.
We've got the first question coming in from Srinivasan. He's bought ITC at the range of 180. He's asking how long he should hold on for good returns. Now, this, I think, Raghavendra, this is the question that a lot of ITC investors have asked in the past, and some of them with a little bit of infuriation. But it's looking reasonably good right now. What is the outlook for Srinivasan?
Well, ITC would be a patience play going ahead. Two verticals of ITC are doing extremely well in the last 2 quarters, specifically the paper segment and the hotel segment has seen some kind of uptick, which was beaten down in 2019, second half and 2020. So we believe, and plus the FMCG would be posting robust earnings. So from here, there could be a catch-up play of ITC with its other FMCG peers in terms of earnings multiple, in terms of revenue. And the board has also come on record, the management, and said that they would come out with a very generous dividend policy and reward the minority shareholders going ahead. So my advice to Mr. Srinivasan, the investor or trader in the ITC, would be to hold this stock for another 1 or 2 quarters, that is 3 to 6 months, for a good upside in ITC.
All right, there's a next query coming in from Palash Agarwal. He's saying that he's bought Yes Bank at a price of 55 rupees per share. He wants to know whether it's a good time to buy, an average price further down. Kunal, Yes Bank 55 rupees per share. I cannot quite recollect when I've seen that kind of stock price come on Yes Bank. What should Palash do with his holding currently?
I think you should look to exit the stock. Remember when you're looking at investing, I think you don't invest and look at the opportunities of investment just because some of the stocks have been beaten down significantly. The fact that these stocks have been beaten down itself tells you that the markets are not giving them premium, and there has been some sort of a spate of negative news flow or events around those kind of stocks. So it doesn't make sense to hold on to investments on Yes Bank. My advice would be to shift and make a switch towards the quality banks, the ones which have a stronger pedigree, of showing historical price returns or historical performance on the fundamental side. So I think something like ICICI Bank, something like a Kotak Bank or an HDFC Bank. The best fact is that these stocks have already gone through a correction of 15 to 20% from their 1 month, 2 month high. So that also augurs a very well opportunity for someone who's looking to invest from a longer term view. So my advice would be to make a switch from Yes Bank towards any of these three key or four top quality private sector banks.
All right, I'm unsure whether the next one is a query or an observation, because Mahesh Vaidyanathan has said that Alchem Laboratories, he bought at an average price of 2750, which is more or less where the stock is currently trading, and he's bought it for the next 5 years. He thinks that the fundamentals look very good. They are undervalued, and the stock is undervalued rather, and it's likely to see consistent EPS growth, which makes it even more attractive. So these are the comments coming in from our viewer, Raghavendra. I would like to hear from you whether they're consistent with what you think about the stock.
Mr. Mahesh, I largely agree with your observation. Alchem Labs management is very conservative in its forecast and outlook. They have gone with I would say, a slow and steady growth path where the earnings have gone up, the revenues continue to do well. Specifically, if you see the last 2 quarters, that export revenue has increased as a bigger pie from the total sales. This would augur very well. So it's a good management with a good corporate governance and a slow and steady earning growth with expansion and very clarity in terms of management. What would they be doing in the next 2 years to 4 years? So hold this stock for a medium to long-term horizon, and it should continue to do well. It could be an outperformer from its other pharma peers as well.
All right, the next query has come from Radesh Rivyash. If I'm sorry if I've pronounced your name incorrectly. He's saying that he's bought Adani Green Energy for 850 rupees per share. He wants to know for how long can he continue to hold on to this particular counter. Kunal, Adani Green Energy, all Adani Group stocks have seen massive surge, and what sort of a rally coming in on the Adani Group stocks? What should our viewer do with this current holding?
Frankly, I think it's very difficult to give a technical view in such kind of stocks. So it's been an exceptional or a dream run for Adani Green, Adani Group of stocks overall in the last I think 2 years, from 2020 start or 2019 end. The stock which was at 2 digits, 80 rupees, 100 odd rupees, end of 2020, second half of end of 2019, to being a stock which is at 1100 rupees. I think it's been a phenomenal uptrend. Now, when you're looking to buy these stocks, and since the fact that the viewer has bought it at 850 odd levels, he's sitting on a good profit. But you have to understand that whether the stock has stamina or the appetite rather to replicate the similar kind of a performance what it has done in the last 2 years. So rising up more than 12 times, 13 times in that kind of a time span. If that's the case, if that's the view, then probably you can hold on to it. But I think if you're looking at it from a pure trading play, then I believe you should look to book out profits on short-term rallies, because when corrections come into these kind of names, those corrections could be very sharp and vicious. So my advice would be to try and take profits and look at investing into some top quality banks or top quality auto stocks as well, or maybe IT stocks like Wipro, which offer some very good opportunity from a longer term view.
All right, gentlemen, let's try and speed things up. I'm going to aim to try and take at least 15 queries today. So Tarun Gambhir's got the next one. He's got a fundamental question, and this one on Dhanuka Agritech. This one is for you, Raghavendra. Would you suggest getting into this counter, and why?
Dhanuka Agritech would do well in the next 2 quarters. First, the forecast for monsoon from the IMD has come out to be good, and the overall government policies in this budget and last year's budget have been a big thrust on rural spend with a focus on agriculture. So the overall theme would do very well for entire agri stocks, and Dhanuka Agritech would be beneficiary. So yes, it's a buy from current levels.
We have our next viewer query coming in from Manjunath Bagodi. She's saying that he wants a view rather on KPIT Tech for a long term. Wants to know, is it a good time to enter this particular counter? Kunal, what's your view on KPIT Tech, or Birlasoft as it's now known as?
So I think KPIT Tech looks quite attractive. I think if I'm not wrong, trading at 190, 193 at current levels looks very attractive, and specifically from a longer term, we have been very bullish on mid-cap IT and the overall IT stocks. So I think KPIT is a good bet at 190 odd levels.
Coming back to you, Kunal, on SBI, we've got Naresh Banapattu. Naresh Bapanapattu, who's bought SBI at 200 he's bought SBI at 357. He's bought 250 shares at 357. Apologies for that. What would you suggest that he do for the next 3 months?
So I think for the next 3 months, it could be a bit of a rough ride for many of the PSU banking stocks. They have been significant underperformers, but SBI of course stands out to be the strongest, even from the underperforming lot. But I believe that if your horizon is more long-term, and if you can stretch your horizon to long-term, that's where I believe you could probably see the real potential getting unleashed for a stock like SBI. So my suggestion would be, rather than tweaking with the stock or with the price, I think you should tweak and try and expand your time horizon from 3 months to at least, if not to less, if not it should be at least 2 years or more for a stock like SBI. I think if you have that kind of a time frame, you could see even levels of 450 to 500 on the stock.
Our next query is coming in from Shanmuga Sundaram, saying that he has NBCC 3,000 shares at 52 rupees per share. Wants to know whether he can continue to hold on to this particular counter. What's your view on this, Kunal, NBCC?
Well, I think many of these stocks from the cap goods space, they did pretty well in the last 4-5 months on the back of some performance from L&T, where L&T surged up higher. NBCC is a very high volatile stock, a very high beta name. I believe that if someone is looking to buy specifically from a longer term view, then why not switch to an L&T? I think even at current levels, that stock looks fairly attractive to me on the longer term charts, and I think it's been one of the top performers as well over the long term. So I would suggest a switch from NBCC to something like L&T.
KK's got the next question, and this one is coming to you, Raghavendra. He's bought 400 BPCL shares at 440 and 400 HPCL shares at 236. He's asking whether he can expect large dividends and price appreciation, because that is why he got into the stock and it hasn't happened yet. He has a horizon of 6 months. Would you first suggest that he should extend the horizon if he's looking for material price appreciation?
If he goes wrong, he can extend it from 6 months to 9 months. But yes, expect a very generous windfall dividend, especially from BPCL. My advice would be even to switch your Hindustan Petroleum to BPCL. The company is also going for probably a stake sale entirely. So that could be another big upside for a target of 700 on BPCL. Hold BPCL for 6 to 9 months.
We have a next query coming in from Aniket Gandhi, and he's saying that he wants to know whether Amara Raja Batteries is a good buy as of now, wants to know the advice fundamentally and technically for the future. But Raghavendra, I will come to you for this. What's your view on Amara Raja Batteries?
Well, this entire stock, Amara Raja, moved up on the story that EV would be a big theme going ahead, which we agree with. But considering the valuations are slightly expensive and the stock being a good stock in terms of returns and management, one can look to buy this stock at any dip. So this would be not buying at current levels, but wait for a correction and buy the stock for if there is any 10% correction in this Amara Raja from current levels.
Okay, Manjunath has actually asked a very interesting question, Kunal. Would you wait for a little while for fresh buys in this market, or would you in fact wait for a little bit of a correction based on what we're seeing on the COVID front? And that is, I think, a multi-million-dollar question, isn't it? Very briefly, what answer would you give, Manjunath?
Well, I think you should look to buy. I think the markets have corrected 1,000 points on the Nifty and more than 5,000 points on the Bank Nifty. You can't ask for too much of a correction, and a little more correction in a market which is looked so strong in the last 1 year. So I think any kind of a 10% drop on the index and a 20% drop almost on the Bank Nifty, I think these are welcome opportunities where you should look to invest. So I think if you specifically missed out on the previous quarter of the uptrend, I think it's a good opportunity for you to start at least investing from a longer term view.
All right, our next viewer query is from Indraneel. He wants to know the views on Fortis Healthcare. Raghavendra, we remember Fortis has seen a sharp rally over the last few weeks. Also today we had Fortis Health Management on ET Now as well. But what's your view on this particular counter?
Well, this entire healthcare and diagnostic space did well in terms of the COVID wave 1, and again they are doing some uptake in wave 2. But remember that government has put a cap in terms of the pricing of RT-PCR test, and so that is not the main business or the revenue generator for a lot of healthcare companies. So I would not buy Fortis Healthcare at current levels in spite of the overall pandemic wave 2 surging. Or even if I'm holding this stock, I would exit at current levels and look for other healthcare space, largely shift into pharmaceutical name, but exit from Fortis Healthcare at current levels.
All right, Raghavendra, I'm hoping that you have a view on this counter. Nino Kuruvilla is asking about Ganesh Ecosphere, which is essentially in the process of recycling of post-consumer PET bottles and waste into recycled polyester staple fiber. That's essentially what it is described as. It's a small cap company, but it's done incredibly well for itself. It's a multi-bagger, if you can call it that, over 200% gains over the last 1 year. Would you suggest that he should hold on to it? I believe that he is invested.
If the caller is invested, hold on to this stock, enjoy the ride till it lasts, as crude would go well, the entire polypack names and sector would do well. The management has come on board and met a lot of funds in the last 2 quarters and explained their overall theme and growth. And I think what they have invested in capacities in the last two years is reaping the fruits right now. So hold on to Ganesh Ecosphere from current levels. It could continue to do extremely well going ahead for a horizon of 1 year or so.
The next query has come from Shubham Rawat. He wants to know whether he should buy HDFC Bank now or should he wait for some more time for the price to go down. He wants to buy this particular counter for a long term. Kunal, HDFC Bank over the longer term, it's a good performer as well. What should Shubham do? Should he? What are the charts actually indicating for HDFC Bank as well? We have the earnings also coming over the weekend.
So I think it's a good entry point if you're looking to buy from a longer term view. From 1600, the stock has already corrected to 1400 odd levels. So in the last 2-3 days, yes, it's rallied a bit from those 1400 levels. But when you look at it in the entirety, it's still available almost 10 to 12% lower from its previous swing high. So these are good opportunities for large cap names where you're looking to chip in at 10% swing lows. So I think it's a good entry point for HDFC Bank, specifically if you're in from a longer term view.
All right, I'd encourage everybody tuned in to ask their questions because a few active guys are actually getting all of their questions answered. Naresh has got another one. Asian Paints bought at levels of 2,420, 32 shares. He's in the green, Kunal, but he's wondering whether he should hold with hold with the intention of getting more, or should he book profits at this point?
I think you should hold on to it. I think it's just that off late the stock has sprung up into some decent uptrend. For first quarter of 2021, last 3 months, that's the stock was dragging from 2,800 to 2,300, 400 levels, where it went on into a downtrend. It's just off late picked up the trend, so it's still yet to surpass that 2,800 level. So if you're patient enough and if you've already purchased, assuming at lower levels, and you're sitting on to profits, and I believe use that classic trailing stop loss mechanism and keep riding the wave higher. I think if the uptrend continues for Asian Paints, it could break past quite smoothly about the 2,800 mark.
We have one last query for the day, and I'll take Radesh's query. He wants to know whether he should buy Tata Communications for 1,100 rupees per share or what should wait for a correction. And Kunal, I'll come directly to you with this question. Last year, you had Tata Communications and the stock price was somewhere around 300 to 400 rupees per share, and look at where it is actually gone right now. So what should our viewer do? What should Radesh do with Tata Communications? Should he buy or wait for corrections?
I think you should wait for corrections, but I believe that closer to 1,000 odd levels could be a good entry point again for Tata Communication. But then again, this is a stock which gives you returns in a very short span of time. It tends to go through long periods of consolidation. So the rallies are very short term oriented, but then the consolidations are pretty long term for Tata Communication. So if you're in for that kind of a stock, then I believe closer to 1,000 levels, 1,000, 1,050 should be a good entry point for Tata Communication.
All right, Kunal, thank you so much, and thank you, Raghavendra, for taking the time, for answering all the questions that you did. Look forward to doing so in the near future. On that note, we'll take a short break. On the other side, we'll get you a wrap of all the earnings that we're expecting right now and what we've seen in the recent past. So do come back.